Okay. Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. This is Freshly Pressed. We're looking at the news stories making the headlines across the country. And we're streaming live on our YouTube channel, so you can catch the live stream and post a comment on there as well. It's Smooth 981. The WhatsApp number to send your thoughts across to is 0809 440 981. Our analysts are in. It's AB Bozimo and Joseph Obari. Good morning.
Good morning, President Zibby. Good morning, Joseph, and good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. Thank God it's Friday.
Good
Yay.
morning, President Zibby. Good morning, listeners. Good morning. It'd be good to see you again.
All right, let's get into the news. The first headline comes from a Daily Trust. I have no reason to underperform, and this is according to the president.
Yes, President Tinubu was at a Ramadan fast, breaking of the fast in the evening with members of the Nigerian business community. And he had said the Nigerian economy is at a turning point and requires the support of the private sector for sustained growth and prosperity. Indeed, he said he campaigned for the role, and so he doesn't expect that anybody, least of all he himself, would have reasons or excuses for non-performance. In fairness, it has been a lot of the people around him who have been backward looking, talking about what they met when they got into office. He has said much less about that. And when you look at his governance CV, at least, he has tons of cognate experience, having once been a governor and all that and so forth. He's speaking to them about a visit he did to the New York Stock Exchange in 2023, where he said he appealed to foreign investors to consider Nigeria as a prime investment destination. All this is, good speech and flowery talk, but I wonder how some of those potential investors will look at the recent news where a number of the top companies in Nigeria have had their shareholders' funds completely wiped out by some of the currency fluctuations and so on. You could say on one side that there's a correction of an artificial bubble that has existed before now. I still even maintain and agree with the president that Nigeria is a great investment destination. However, they will have questions, valid questions about the state of governance, especially the state of security of their, assets and potentially of the businesses that they want to invest in Nigeria. All that said, it's a positive note in the context, especially of the community of business and the government getting together. He highlighted a lot of how the private sector is a major driver of the economy because, face it, as much as the government is often the primary purchaser of goods and services in a country, the private sector is that part of the economy that does a lot of the doing and the service provision and all that, and especially the employment. So I think it behooves government to do its part to create that famous word, the enabling environment, where the private sector businesses can actually thrive, survive, and give value and pay their dues, of course, in terms of taxes and all that to government. It's all about organizing society properly. And that honestly often falls on the government and its regulatory authorities. And for them to treat each player fairly and relatively equally. Government shouldn't be in the business of choosing winners and losers. It shouldn't be in the business of putting, obstacles in front of any sectors. I think with this kind of encouragement, many members of the private sector will go back, retool, and come up with even better solutions. So it's a good, altogether, a feel-good story.
All right, thank you for that, AB. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. From Vanguard, bandits release 51 victims, kill 5 in Kaduna. Joseph?
Yeah, so when you just oppose the story we just talked about with, side by side with this one, every investor looks for security of his funds and ability to be able to do business and be able to repatriate their profit. So security has become a continuous and almost a permanent decimal in our society now, insecurity more or less. So this is a very troubling story, even though the story says that we have got some people who have been released by the police from kidnapping and so on. The staggering figure alone, 141 terror cases, 240 kidnappings in 8 weeks. That doesn't speak well of any society where investors are. Am I looking at the right story?
There are two stories related.
You
Either of them.
Yeah. So in any of these situations, you'll find out that the picture to the investors, and it's not really very, very beautiful, you know. So in Kaduna, in Kajuru local government area, 61 persons were kidnapped from a community, and 5 of them were killed. 5 are still being held. The rest of them have returned to the community in very critical condition. It does not speak well at all. We are lucky. We know nobody has told us exactly how many, how those people were able to come out of the hands of their these criminals. Was ransom paid? Did these people just have a change of heart and then release these people? What really happened? What transpired? What was the role of the security agencies in these people's release? The story is silent on all of this. It's silent on all of this. So what happens and what we've read before is simply that usually there is some exchange. Some money is paid either by communities raising the fund to free their people, or some government at somewhere they send money to these criminals and then they release the people. And so perhaps the criminals have looked at the potential of the remaining 5 persons and feel that they can use them more as bargaining chip, and that's why they didn't release them. It's possible. But there are so many questions that we need to find answers to in the story, in the Kaduna story.
All right, thank you, Joseph. I might have mixed up these two security headlines. Yes. I was trying to put them together, AB.
They're related. And I mean, the key thing is that some people were killed in captivity. Are we going to account for them? Are we going to have the opportunity to give compensation to their remaining family members? We have to come to a point where we are accounting for the lives of Nigerians at a level where, because it just sounds like a story, 5 people were killed. These are 5 individuals who had links with other human beings. I'm going to hope that this story just doesn't end as a headline. 51 released, 5 killed, and 5 held, and that's it. We can never get to a point where we normalize hearing tragedies like this as just part of daily life in Nigeria. We must track these people. I mean, my favorite program, Air Crash Investigation, they track down to the exact cause and source of an accident so that you understand it and hopefully prevent it from happening again. We must come to that point where when we have these stories, we are equally as concerned about the details. Like I said, how were they released? We hear that they come back in terrible health condition. They were chained for weeks, perhaps. This is unacceptable, and we must treat it thus, unacceptable as a society. It could be any one of us. Never think it's far away. Things are happening between maybe here, Port Harcourt and Warri. Different people are being kidnapped all over the place. So let's never think it's not happening in my zone, and therefore it's not of great import to me.
What does this mean to the collective psyche of people? Because years ago, when there were cases of attacks by terrorists or kidnappings, people were stunned. But every other day, it does seem like it's almost become normalized in our society. What does that do to people over time?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I refuse to take this as normal. And really, we are living in a state of siege, whether we know it or not. I argue that most people moving around, especially on town transport, have their hearts in their mouths in a way that even doesn't let them enjoy the beauty on the trip. Nigeria is a very beautiful country. Traveling between any two parts could be something of an experience, an enjoyable one at that. But with all these kind of stories, each time you enter a vehicle, not only you in the vehicle, your relations at the place you left and the place you're going to, everybody is in an elevated stage of anxiety. That's not healthy. There are enough stressors in the world. There are enough stressors in Nigeria. Adding this to it makes it worse. And it's sustained because we don't get definitive reports on what eventually happened. How, when the unfortunate happens and people are killed, we don't get what they call resolution or closure. This person unfortunately was killed, and we've got the terrorists who were involved, and they are being prosecuted, they are detained, and in the course of time, they have been sentenced to death, which is, I'm an advocate of the death sentence for a terrorist. It may not be popular, but that's my position. If you terrorize, your life will be forfeit.
I think the government has normalized this because you have over 100 people get kidnapped and then or abducted, and the government business goes on as usual. There is no national shock, no response, and no nothing. Everything goes on as if it's a normal thing. Now,
no press statement to keep us updated.
Nothing at all from the government. And then you have the IG comes up and tells you, oh, we can do this. It's giving you statistics, but it's not answering those key questions that we are still asking, expecting answers to. I mean, for example, how did these people get released? Where was ransom paid in each instance? What was the circumstance of their adoption and all that kidnapping, terrorism? Who are those behind this? Those are the things we should hear police chief talk about. But it's just, reeling out statistics. It's like, just, okay, we bought some loaves of bread and then we got eggs and crates. It's so just banal. And that's the problem. Now, so even the citizens themselves are adjusting to this, because as long as it's not personal to you, like you said, then it's just business as usual. Somebody died, 5 persons died. They are far away. Until perhaps it gets closer to the individual, then you know that it is more serious than that. And even intercity movements is a cause of concern. You can just board a bus somewhere and then you disappear. That people are disappearing in this country, and it's continuous.
And Amy, you spoke about the anxiety that people feel because a lot of people are stressed out. A lot of people aren't sleeping well at night. Literally, from the moment I leave my home to come to work, I have to inform someone I'm at work now. And that is the normal for everyone in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you could be going to buy a loaf of bread, and it's that opacity. You see, when that ship hit the bridge, there were, and there have continued to be, timely press conferences. Even when they didn't know what had happened and everything, they came and addressed the people. There has been a situation. We don't yet know who's lost and everything. And as they were discovering some of the people who had passed on, sadly, they would identify them by name. Now, 5 people. These 5 people have names. It's important that they are memorialized for the record. Mr. A, Mr. B, Miss C, not 5 people. It's almost like that Nigerian saying, logs of wood. When it's not your person that passes on, is like a piece of wood. No, these are 5 people with hopes, dreams, plans, and disappointments in life. And they had connections to all of us. Once we're in this geographical contraction called Nigeria, we are all connected, whether we like it or not. And so it's a loss to me personally that 5 people died. I just feel the government. Go on,
and
please.
our journalism is not even helping matters, Because this story, for example, takes it purely from the interaction with the community people who spoke about what happened. There is no government involvement. As a journalist is expected to ask critical questions. At least he would have called the police, would have called this person and said, this is what, and we needed to hear the voice of government. Not even local government chairman was spoken to. So it's a concern. I mean, that just tells you how normalized it is. Oh, some people were released, we report that. All this will happen, we report. Some people adopted that, we report that. So even media itself is also getting into that normalizing groove of this whole experience. And it is frightening.
Indeed. You're still listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The conversation continues shortly. I see your messages coming through. We'll take them on the other side. Stay with us. Okay. This is Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. We have the analysts in, AB Bozimo and Joseph Obari. We're looking at the news stories that are making the headlines across the country. Let us know your thoughts. Get interactive. WhatsApp number is 0809 444 981. You can also tweet at Smooth 981, and we're streaming live on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth 981. Let's look at a few messages coming through. Ajayi says, President Tinubu, just like past leaders, can praise himself on the way he's handling the affairs of the country, but the reality on ground is not painting such rosy pictures as the quality of life continues to decline amid soaring inflation. And this latest outrageous hike in electricity tariff is not a promise of renewed hope. God help us. And another message coming through from Pastor Dakwa. He says, what is really going on? We just wake up every day and hear that a certain number of people were killed all across the world. Are we a bunch of brutal savages or what? This is not Old Testament time where genocide and exterminating people is allowed. And when you come down to the reason, because of money, and we're told that the love of money is the root of all evil, loving our creator and maker plus our neighbors is the summary of our implementative duties. We really need to search within ourselves in order to realize that all is vanity. Got a message coming through. This is from AB Ambo. AB Ambo says, it is the woman whose child has been eaten by a witch who knows best the evils of witchcraft. All right, let's move on to the next headline from Premium Times. Vaccine. Gavi announces $250 million grant to Nigeria as Tinubu urges greater collaboration with the organization.
Yeah, okay. The Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi, is an private government initiative that aims to help countries be able to manage vaccinations across the world. And here they visited the president and pledged that they are going to give more support to Nigeria in terms of vaccine. And the concern of Nigeria, the president made to them was to ensure that Nigeria becomes a strong local manufacturer of vaccine. Because during the COVID period, we saw the vaccine politics, the global vaccine politics play out, where first world nations catered for themselves, ensure their citizens were protected, distributed vaccines, the best of vaccines to themselves, and neglected the developing countries. So it became a point where people had to, there were outcries globally about the discrimination. And of course, some people had really predicted that half of Africa was going to die from COVID anyway. And so they were shocked that somehow they were able to cope more resiliently than any part of the world, despite not having the vaccines. But then that's what the president pointed out to. That experience calls us to action to be able to produce vaccines locally. And he says we have the expertise, and truly we do. Some other, India is a developing country, but it is very strong in vaccine production. So we can borrow something from India and be able to begin to produce vaccines here. But talking about just vaccine production is a different thing. There is a cultural thing about vaccination, which has been a challenge in Nigeria, where some persons don't trust vaccination, and then they prevent children from having, and that is particularly the polio vaccine. Nigeria still remains one of the few countries in the world where polio still incapacitates children, and it's avoidable just because of cultural misunderstanding of what this is all about. So there's a lot more that we need to do beyond just production of vaccines, but then also to have our environment, our whole people embrace the protective benefits of vaccines generally.
You see, the cultural thing, some of it is, or it originates from us, but there's also been evidence that sometimes some researchers from these advanced countries have chosen to use foreigners like Nigerian children in Kano as guinea pigs to test their product. So there are two sides to it. At the end of the day, let's be honest, at the end of the day, the word is vaccine production. Production is a process. We have the expertise, we have the brains, we don't have the power. Now with power leaping up over 200%, I don't know how effective and efficient it'll be to produce here. And I saw some statistics I'm yet to verify where somebody compared the minimum payment, minimum wage in Canada and in another country compared to the cost of energy in those countries. And Nigeria looks ridiculous because you have such a low minimum wage and such a high cost of electricity. How do you produce without electricity? So let's just understand that it's not just us who are afraid of vaccines. People have given some of us reason to be suspicious, but you're right.
Vaccines overall Pfizer case.
Yes, vaccines have improved outcomes for children's lives in general.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to some of the messages. Linda from Yaba says, is Leah Sherubu among those released recently? Has she been released before and I missed it? May the souls of the departed kidnapped persons rest in peace, and may God console their loved ones. And may he renew our leaders and people to take our security and our lives more seriously. The commentator for his passionate opinion. All right, and let's see. Leah Sherubu has not been released to the best of our knowledge, but of course, this also comes into account the numbers, the statistics, and not the people. So we hear about 100 people, but we don't know who these 100 are. But I do believe if Leah Sherubu, yes, if Leah was released, it might have she might have been named. But let's move on to this message.
That would be a heavy headline news. Yeah.
Absolutely. Dada says, kidnapping is normal in Nigeria because the government have made it so and the people are helpless. The government knows them for where they are around us. The possibility of the security men involvement cannot also be put aside. How was Kano brought into the country and how was Igboho apprehended? Then why can't the terrorists be captured? There is no peace for the wicked, either here or hereafter. Ibrahim Zakari says, I used to drive to Kaduna with my family, went on leave. 3 years now, I've not gone to see my siblings because of kidnappings. Note, in the past, Mobile police personnel were attached to luxury buses traveling long distance. Who dropped the ball? No more police security. I'm heartbroken for my country. Diro says, I wonder if vaccines can be produced without an enabling environment, electricity, security, right regulatory frameworks, etc. All right, let's move on to the next headline. The Guardian. Researchers, startups to develop framework for AI adoption.
AI is here. AI has been here for a while. It's still considered to be in its relatively primitive stage, and it's doing amazing things in most spheres of life. AI is a tool. I mean, when we started architecture school, we were using pens, pencils, and all that. Now computers are de rigueur, and there's actually virtual reality. You can actually describe some things, and AI can spit out things. I'm sure in law too, AI can assist to assemble certain types of documents. Even in broadcasting, AI is doing voiceovers now. So the Minister of Communications, Innovation, and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, has said that he's trying to put together Nigerian experts to help develop researchers and experts to help develop a framework for AI, because there's something called leapfrogging. We might be behind in many spheres. Certainly, electricity is one of the spheres we're behind the rest of the world. But there could be an opportunity for us to leapfrog and at least join up at the front of the AI revolution. AI is about manipulating huge data sets to create such an overwhelming availability and accessibility to resources that it looks literally like it's happening in real life. But what it is that you've put in a lot of data in the background, and you train the computer to seek relevant data to give you potential results. Some of the results are amazing. We are trying to ensure that here in Nigeria, we don't just remain literally like spectators as AI is being developed. Next thing, we're waiting for the results. And when it comes, it is, like we say, culturally attuned to others. We want to have a space in it. So I think that is actually a positive initiative. At the end of the day, we must carve out our own area within the broader scope, put in our priorities, put in our proclivities, and ensure that when AI as a whole is being developed, there is a place within that space that has the unique Nigerian flavor and ethos. And I would say when it comes to technology, you can't do better than investing in technology. We have one of the most intelligent sets of human beings on the surface of planet Earth. There is no lack of ability. If we can just provide the necessary support like this looks like it is to me, we will have great results down the line in healthcare, in education, in agriculture, of course, in every other sphere. So it's something that's going to happen sometime this April, where experts in AI from around the world, especially those of Nigerian descent, will be assembled somewhere in Abuja to put their heads together and make it happen. I applaud this initiative.
All right, we've got about a minute to go, and this headline comes from The Nation. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency has warned of a likely heat stress across the country.
Well, I don't think we need to be told. We are all feeling the bites. I mean, it's so warm that across the country people are getting, but it's important that an agency of government that is actually monitoring this gets to let us know how serious this is. And I'm happy that they are able to say this. They even have a map that shows the intensity of the heat from region to region. And then here in this account, this story, they are even advising on what we need to do. Make sure you're hydrating properly, drink a lot of water, stay indoors when it's very hot, look for cool places. But I think it's ironic that the agency was even asking for people more campaign on awareness. And who is supposed to lead that campaign but themselves? And that's one of the challenges we have with our government agencies. People don't understand even their own role, because NiMet, who is providing this information, is supposed to drive the awareness part of it, the communication part of it, by bringing out the budget and whatever it takes to break down the information to as many people as possible. How many persons are reading newspapers that will get to know this? But if you pass it to radio stations, to televisions, and have something illustrative that people can understand, they relate to that. We're already experiencing it. But then if you guide certain guidelines that people can apply, then it becomes more meaningful to the information, becomes more meaningful to them. Who else is supposed to do the awareness campaign than NiMet, that is providing the information and guidance? So NiMet, Ministry of Information and Health, for example, can collaborate to be able to push out the information to people. In other parts of the world, when situations like this occur, government actually sets up a place where people can go cool off. You know, where you can go, they set up a camp somewhere, and then people can go there just to cool themselves down. And it's not too much to do. Somebody has to lead that. Somebody has to have that initiative and be able to push it through.
This happens sometimes, very briefly, this happens sometimes in the US, and they advise people to go to the malls where typically you have indoor air conditioning. Here they said we should go to places that have air conditioning. Where is the light for air conditioning?
Yeah.
But most importantly, this comes back to how we design the spaces and places in which we live and operate. It's really important for all of us in the built environment, architects, engineers especially, to make sure that the kinds of spaces that we create are easier to keep and stay cool and support life safety, because this is a life safety issue. People die of heat stroke, or at least are seriously harmed health-wise. So it's an all-round thing. Good. NiMet is telling us, stay hydrated, wear light clothing, stay in the shade, don't expose yourself. But the environments in which we live, the buildings, the offices, the shops, we really have to make them better so that people can still survive. But this goes back to climate change and how trying to have a generator economy like Nigeria has is not going to help us in the short or long run. Ultimately, we must have good public power that is affordable.
Affordable, the key word. Let's see. Tonye says, with the new cost of electricity, what computer will be powered for endless AI executions? AB Ambo says, unlike March, April is usually hot with intermittent rainfall. Respite comes in late May, just before the rainy season in June. Before then, our biggest undoing was the announcement subsidy is gone. Those words alone, even though there were few, killed all hopes of putting PHCN and their unreliable service to shame. They won't give us electricity in this hot weather, and the government has stopped us from fueling our generators due to the high cost of petrol. Anthony Francis says, I'm particularly surprised at the timing of this electricity bill increase. We're going into the rainy season when we all know the Gencos will depend more on the dams to generate power other than the gas-fired turbines, which they're using as cover stories for this malicious increase. That is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your messages. And of course, special thanks to our analysts, AB and Joseph, as always, for coming through.
Thank you. You may agree with me, disagree with me, hit me up at AB Bozimo on all platforms.
All right. Well,
it's been a great week. Let's have a wonderful weekend.
Amen to that. Thank you so much. Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.